So welcome back everyone, and you guys have asked for this in almost every video that we've done so far, and some of you have even wondered who are all these people playing Dirt 5? I'm one of them. I absolutely love the game. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful racing game, especially if you're into like arcade style racers, especially off-road racers where you're kind of bumping into people and you're having a lot of fun. But this is one of the launch titles from the Red team that they partnered with to get ray tracing features into the game. Now, Dirt 5 features ray trace shadows, and it does feature variable rate shading. However, there's still some questions around that one because there's not an option for it in the game, and there are some variable options that we'll talk about here in a minute that I think some people have been testing with, and that's why they're finding some really bizarre or non-typical rather results whenever they're testing Dirt 5, and they're finding some abnormalities in the image of the final constructed image. So I'm going to throw up the test bench on the screen here so you can kind of get an idea of what we're working with here. This is the test bench that we've been using and we will be using. And in the results, we did use smart access memory, so you'll see those results in the final results so that you can kind of see where that landed. Now, we tested the 3070, 3080, 6800, and 6800 XT. But before we get into those results and we start talking about those, I want to talk about the settings. I'm going to pull up my piece of paper here and we'll have a shot on the screen so you can see the settings. Now, there are the important settings here to keep in mind are the final resolution. That's going to be the resolution of the final output. There's the history resolution, and that's the resolution of the history buffer that is used for temporal anti-aliasing, or TAA rather, if you're more familiar with that. And then there's the render resolution. Now that's the resolution of the back buffer that it's rendering before the history and then into the final render resolution. Now, if all of these aren't statically set to the same number, so the same resolution across the board, you can get a variable image at the end of the day. So there's a good chance that you can get that image. Now, if you can play around with these and you can find that you can't see the difference, then go ahead, by all means. Set them to dynamic, set them to a percentage of the final rendered image, and kind of see what works for you. But in the testing that we did here today, we set everything to either 1440p, so 2560 by 1440, or UHD, which is 3840 by 2160. So all three of these resolutions were set to the same so that the numbers were as consistent as possible. Now, the results. Let's talk about those. Straight up 1440p, boom, there we have it. Very good performance from the Red team without ray tracing. Notice that the first results that we're seeing here is no ray tracing. So with ray tracing turned off, we see very good solid performance from the 6800 series, especially when smart access memory is enabled. They're doing very, very well. Now, turn on ray tracing and we see a hit. Obviously, you're going to see a hit across the board. And it's a pretty decent one. We're looking at about 10 to 12 FPS or upwards to 16 on the smart access memory. But you see here, the performance stays, the tiers stay about the same. So nobody's really shifting majorly here. So the 3080 and the 6800 XT are performing about the same, whereas with smart access memory, we're seeing a performance advantage for the 6800 XT. Interestingly enough here, it's consistently lost a couple of frames. Didn't lose anything on the 1% percentiles, but it lost a little bit of performance there. So shows there's still some work to be done with smart access memory. It's not going to be this universal tick it on and you're going to get massive performance gains. Now, moving into 4K with ray tracing turned off, we see a very similar story. We see about the same numbers across the board as far as percentages between each other, with smart access memory giving a noticeable gain to the 6800 XT. And then when we turn ray tracing on in this title, we see about the same story that we saw in 1440p. But obviously, they all kind of drop a good bit here. Now, this is where it gets interesting with numbers that we've seen before, and even the numbers that I had originally in the 6800 XT review was because I had set everything to native and set the resolution of the desktop and thought that it was just, well, it's just rendering that and it's at native. But there's still some things going on with there. So if you really want to get an apples-to-apples performance comparison in Dirt 5, you're going to need to set all three of those resolutions to the same. So if you're trying to compare results that somebody else got, and of course, I know it's late in the video to mention it, but we did these at the ultra high quality, like the maximum settings through here, and those were on the graph. So if you caught that, you caught it, but if you didn't, apologies. So when it comes to the question of the quality of the ray tracing, that's where things kind of get a little dicey on this one. Now, I've been doing a lot of ray tracing stuff, so it's easy for me to spot the differences when things are, you know, on and off. And quite frankly, it's probably easier for me than it should be, because I've been doing it since they started doing the whole ray tracing thing, so hybrid rendering with ray traced effects in games. So I know the telltale signs to look for. Can't really see them in this one. Now the edges of the shadows of the cars is a little bit softer. It seems to respond a little bit more naturally. The shadows, when you can see inside the car, seems to be a little bit better rendered, but for the most part, even in the videos that AMD has put up, you have to really kind of slow down and look in weird spots to really see the difference. So, I mean, the good thing is you're not going to take such a performance hit on here that you're not going to want to turn it on. But you're unlike games like the Rift Breaker, where you see a huge difference when you turn it on. Even in Call of Duty, there's a pretty big difference when you turn it on and off. But this one, not so much. I would probably leave it off in this one. But variable rate shading, when that comes in and you can tick that one, that may be the one to really kind of focus on. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, found something useful out of it. Let me know if these results were what you expected, were a little bit different than what you expected, or, well, if you've got the game, are you looking forward to them finally unlocking the ray tracing features for everyone, or do you really even care? Love to hear your comments down in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.